I don't know what kind of person books a luxury event using their son's credit card, then forgets to invite him, but I guess I do now. Hi, my name's Jack. I'm 32, and this is the story of how my own parents made me realize just how expendable I was to them. If you told me last year that I'd be sitting here writing this, still numb, still stunned, I'd have laughed and called you paranoid. Because for most of my life, I genuinely thought my family loved me. I wasn't delusional. They weren't perfect, but no one is, right? We had our moments. Birthday calls, holiday dinners, group chats that died off and came back to life randomly. Nothing screamed dysfunction until it all unraveled in slow motion, one polite smile at a time. I'm the oldest of three. My sister Lacey is 29, charming, popular, a people person with that soft influencer voice and perfectly curated Instagram life. My younger brother, Drew, is 26, the baby of the family who still gets away with stuff like forgetting mom's birthday because he sent a late meme that made her laugh. I've always been the quiet one, the one who shows up, offers help, and keeps the peace. I run a digital marketing firm I started 5 years ago. It's small but successful. We work with a few luxury brands, and I've built some good relationships in the event planning and catering industries. That'll matter later. Growing up, I wasn't the golden child, but I was dependable. I didn't cause problems, didn't get caught sneaking out. I kept my grades up, helped with chores, helped Lacey with college applications, even paid off a chunk of Drew's student loans when he couldn't make payments and didn't want our parents to know. That was 3 years ago. He never brought it up again, and I never asked. That's how things went in our family. I was the one they leaned on, but never looked at for too long. Not really. Not when Lacey's wedding needed planning. Not when Drew landed his dream job and needed connections I handed him on a silver platter. I was always background support. Present, but not spotlight worthy. Still, I never resented them. Not seriously. I assumed that's just how some families were. Not everyone gets a trophy or a thank you text. I was happy to help. I thought helping meant I mattered. That they saw me. Until the night my mom said, "There just wasn't room for you, you understand, right?" With that soft, almost apologetic smile. And the truth dropped like a lead weight in my chest. But we're not there yet. Let me rewind. It started with a text from my mom in early March. "Hey Jack, quick question. Could I run something by you? Dad's 60th is coming up, and we want it to be special, smiling face with smiling eyes." I remember smiling when I read it. That was Mom's "I want a favor" tone. Always polite, always punctuated with emojis. I called her back that night. She launched right in. How this birthday had to be big. How Dad deserved a real celebration this time after the quiet COVID years. How she and Lacey had been brainstorming ideas and needed some professional help. I said sure. Of course. What do you need? Venue, catering, a cake, maybe a photo booth, she said. Something elegant, but fun. Not too stuffy. I asked for the guest list. She said they were still finalizing it. I offered to handle the booking and vendor outreach, suggested a couple high-end places I knew through my client connections. One of them, a rooftop event space downtown, was gorgeous. Expensive, but perfect. I'd helped plan a corporate gala there last fall. I could get a discount. Mom was thrilled. We went back and forth over the next 2 weeks. I coordinated with a private chef I knew, got a tasting lined up, even had one of my designers mock up an invitation template just for fun. Mom and Lacey ate it up, sent me Pinterest boards and color palettes, voice notes with seating ideas. I didn't mind. I like being useful. Every time I opened my inbox to another "Jack, can we do this?" I felt like I was part of something for once. Like they trusted me with something that mattered. Then came the cake. Lacey wanted one of those architectural-style tiered cakes, the kind you see on wedding blogs. But custom, she said. And with Dad's company logo on the side. Kind of funny but classy. I laughed, said I'd reach out to a boutique bakery I'd worked with. They were expensive. I offered to have it sponsored through my company. Technically, it fell under a promotional partnership we had for branded events. One email later, it was done. They'd make the cake. No charge to my family. Just a credit mention in the photos. I'll let Lacey know. She texted back. "Jack, you are amazing." Everything was moving fast. I put the deposit down for the venue using my business card, secured the catering schedule, and even helped schedule the live jazz trio Mom said would bring the vibe together. I never asked to be reimbursed. I assumed we'd settle that later. Or maybe they'd just thank me at the party. Maybe this was my way in. Maybe, finally, I'd feel like a real part of the family celebration. I didn't say it out loud, but I had a shirt picked out. A little dressy, with cufflinks I hadn't worn since Lacey's wedding. The day the invitations went out, I was on a client call when I saw my family group chat ping. A photo of the invite, captioned, "It's happening." Lacey had designed it. I smiled, enlarged the image, and read the names. Then read them again. And again. There was a list, not just of guests, but of special mentions. Family, friends, business partners. Drew's name was there. So was Lacey's husband. Even a couple cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. I scrolled. My name wasn't there. That had to be a mistake, right? I scrolled again. Nothing. I sent a quick text. "Hey, I didn't see my name on the invite. Was it just a mock-up?" No reply. An hour later, Mom called. Her voice was calm. Warm, even. "Jack, honey, I was going to call you about that." I laughed nervously. "About what?" "I'm not on the list." There was a pause. Then she sighed. "There just wasn't room for everyone, sweetie. You understand, right?" I waited for the punchline. For her to laugh and say, "Of course you're invited. Don't be silly." But it never came. There wasn't room? I repeated. "The space only allows 75, she said gently. "And we had to prioritize. Your father's work friends, the neighbors, your uncle, and his new fiancée. It added up fast." I swallowed. "But I helped plan it." "I know, sweetheart. You've been wonderful. Really, we couldn't have done it without you." I stared at the wall. My mind couldn't catch up to what I was hearing. "So I plan it. I pay for it. I get the cake. And I don't even get to be there." She clicked her tongue like I was being childish. "Don't be like that, Jack. It's not personal. It's logistics. You're so generous, and you'll still be part of it in spirit. Honestly, this wouldn't even be happening without you. And I know your father appreciates that." Something cold twisted in my stomach. I didn't even know what to say. I think I muttered something like, "Okay," then hung up before my voice cracked. I didn't sleep that night, or the night after. I stared at the ceiling, replaying every favor I'd ever done. Every time I'd stepped aside, let them shine, help behind the scenes, let them treat my efforts like background noise. And now they had the audacity to exclude me from a party I planned? I kept hearing her voice. "There just wasn't room for you, you understand, right?" She said it softly, almost smiling. I didn't understand, but I would. And so would they. Because if I wasn't invited to the party, then maybe the party wasn't going to happen at all. And all it took was one call and one password change. But I'll get to that. Not yet. First, you need to see how deep this hole went. Because the betrayal didn't end there. It got worse. Much worse. I wish I could say that was the last time I let something like that slide, but it wasn't. Not even close. After the invite incident, I thought maybe, just maybe, someone would reach out again. Maybe Lacey would call and say, "Mom told me what she said. That was messed up." Or Drew would shoot me a casual, "Yo, WTF man, you're not going?" text. But they didn't. The group chat went silent for a couple days, then picked back up like nothing happened. Memes. Updates on party prep. Selfies from the venue walkthrough Lacey did with Mom. Me? I was still in there, still seeing it all, but no one addressed the elephant in the room. No one cared that I wasn't on the guest list. I started to feel like I was watching someone else's family from behind a one-way mirror. The real punch came a few nights later when I called Dad. It was late, maybe 10 p.m., and I'd been pacing around my apartment, phone in hand, trying to decide if it was even worth bringing up. But I needed to hear it from him. I needed him to say it was a mistake, that it wasn't his idea. He answered on the third ring, his voice groggy. "Hey, sport. Everything okay?" I hesitated. "Can we talk for a minute?" Sure. "What's up?" I took a breath. "Did you know I'm not invited to your birthday?" Silence. Then he exhaled. "Jack, look, it wasn't my decision. But you're okay with it." Another pause. "It's just one night." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "It's your night. Don't make this into something it's not," he said quietly. "We just had to make a few hard choices, that's all." Hard choices. Like cutting out your eldest son. I felt my throat tighten. "Do you even want me there?" I asked. That silence again. The kind that confirms everything you were afraid to believe. Then he said, "Don't do this, Jack. You're being sensitive. I appreciate everything you've done. You've always been generous. But this isn't about you." I nodded slowly, even though he couldn't see me. "Right? It never is." I hung up before I said something I couldn't take back. Or maybe I didn't say enough. I don't even know anymore. After that, something inside me changed. It wasn't rage, not yet. It was something quieter, heavier, like a slow leak in a tire. Disappointment turning into disillusionment. It wasn't just that they didn't invite me. It's that no one seemed to think it mattered. The next week was a blur. I went through the motions at work, nodded through meetings, smiled through Zoom calls. All the while, I watched my family prepare for a party I had built from the ground up, without me. I checked in with the vendors, confirmed timelines, triple-checked dietary restrictions for the catering. Mom had given me a list, and I didn't say a word about what I was feeling. Not to them. Not even to myself. Then came the gift request. Yeah, you read that right. It was Lacey. She called me up all bubbly, like nothing had happened. Hey, big brother. Quick thing, we were thinking of doing a group gift for Dad, like a surprise at the end of the night. Drew's pitching in $300. I'm doing $500. Think you could swing $1,000. I actually laughed. She paused. Wait, was that a yes or? I cut her off. You're asking me to fund a gift for a party I'm not invited to? Oh my God, don't be dramatic, she groaned. You are part of it. You helped make it happen, right? That's what matters. I didn't even get an invitation, Lacey. Jack, don't make this a thing, she said, suddenly annoyed. Mom already explained everything. You know how tight the guest list is. This isn't about feelings, it's logistics. That word again. Logistics. She kept talking, but I zoned out. I was staring at my laptop screen, open to the invoice for the venue deposit, $3,000 on my card. Non-refundable, unless canceled within the next 72 hours. That window was closing. Fast. Anyway, just let me know by Friday, okay? She chirped before hanging up. I sat there in silence, staring at that invoice. Then I opened my calendar. The party was in 6 days. And that's when the first crack formed in the dam. Not a full-on break. Just the first whisper of, what if you didn't let this slide? Still, I didn't act yet. Not until the favor came. 3 days before the party, Drew texted me. Yo bro, can I ask for a quick one? I didn't answer right away. He followed up. Need UR login for the vendor portal thing you use. Lacey wants to double-check the playlist for the jazz band. Mom forgot to tell you. Sray. I stared at the screen, dumbfounded. Not only were they excluding me, they were now bypassing me. Using me. Taking what I built and treating me like a glorified admin. I typed back slowly. You know I'm not invited, right? Read. No reply. A few hours later, Lacey called. What's going on with you? I'm busy, I said flatly. Well, Drew said you're being weird about the login. Can you just send it? We need to finalize the set list. You want my login for the platform I pay for? Oh my God, it's not that deep, she said laughing. You're being so touchy about this whole thing. You've always been kind of sensitive, but this is next level. Sensitive. That was the word that did it. That was the moment the dam didn't just crack, it shattered. I'd spent years bending over backwards for these people. Paid off loans. Booked venues. Got them out of last-minute disasters. Kept their secrets. Swallowed my pride. And now I was sensitive. Something in me snapped. Sure, I said calmly. I'll handle it. Thanks, she said breezily, clearly not catching the shift in my tone. Can you send it by tonight? You're a lifesaver. Click. I didn't send the login. I opened the dashboard. The venue. The catering. The bakery. The jazz trio. All of it, scheduled, confirmed, paid through my accounts or my company's promotional partners. Every last detail under my control. And suddenly, I remembered something. The cake. The massive, sculptural, centerpiece cake wasn't scheduled to be delivered until the morning of the party. And the venue had a strict rule. If payment or booking credentials weren't confirmed 48 hours in advance, they'd release the slot. It was designed to protect them from ghost clients. It was Wednesday night. The party was Saturday. 48 hours. That phrase echoed in my head. 48 hours. I sat very still, my laptop glowing in front of me. I opened a new tab, logged into the event vendor portal, clicked into my user settings. Change password. Yes. Are you sure? Yes. One call. That's all it would take. I had the event manager's direct number. I could cancel, reschedule, release the booking, but I didn't press it yet. Not yet. I needed to be sure. I needed to know this wasn't just petty payback. I needed to know if this was the moment I'd look back on and say, that's when everything changed. And then came the final straw. Thursday morning. A post on Facebook. Public. Tagged. From my mom. So grateful for my amazing daughter and son for planning such a perfect night for their dad's 60th. You two are the heart of this family. I can't wait to celebrate with all our favorite people. Hashtag family first, hashtag blessed. She even tagged the bakery and the venue. I wasn't mentioned. Not once. Not even a line about, thanks to Jack for helping behind the scenes. Nothing. I stared at that post for 10 full minutes. Then I picked up the phone. Called the venue. Hi, I said. This is Jack. My company booked the rooftop space for the Bennett event on Saturday. I need to cancel the reservation. Of course. May I ask why? Change of plans, I said calmly. Understood. Just a reminder, per our policy, that will release the date and the space will no longer be available. I know. Would you like to transfer the booking to another client or event? I paused. My heart was pounding. Then I smiled. No, I said. Let it go. And I hung up. I logged into the catering dashboard. Revoked the guest list access. Canceled the order. Same with the jazz band. Same with the bakery. I sent one polite email to the cake sponsor. Event canceled. Please redirect promotional partnership elsewhere. And then I changed every password. I waited. And waited. Then, Friday afternoon, 24 hours before the party, my phone rang. It was Mom. I stared at the screen. Then I answered. And said nothing. Just listened. Because I already knew. The silence on her end was deafening. And I was ready for what came next. For the first few seconds, all I heard was breathing. My mother's soft, shaky inhale, like she was preparing a monologue. And me? I didn't say a word. I let her speak first. For once. Jack. Her voice cracked slightly, like she was already crying. What happened? I leaned back in my chair and stared at the ceiling. I could hear the panic underneath her practiced calm. That little tremble that slipped through when her plans unraveled. What happened? I repeated. You mean with the venue? The food? The cake? Yes. A pause. Yes, all of it. I just got off the phone with Lacey, and what do you mean everything's been canceled? The band said you pulled the plug. The venue is saying we don't have a reservation anymore. The bakery said they were told not to deliver the cake. What's going on? You told me I wasn't invited, I said flatly. She sputtered. Jack, we talked about this. We explained. The list was tight. We couldn't fit everyone. But you could fit Uncle Ray and his girlfriend of the month. You could fit the neighbors from 2 houses down. You could fit Lacey's yoga instructor. Just not your son. She was quiet again. The silence stretched out so long I thought she might have hung up. Then she said, in a small voice, This is a lot, Jack. You didn't have to go this far. I let out a humorless laugh. Didn't I? You're being cruel, she said. It's your father's birthday. I planned your father's birthday, I snapped. I paid for it. I got the venue. I got the catering. The entertainment. I even got the cake. All you had to do was include me. Not as a guest of honor. Not as the favorite. Just as someone who mattered. Another pause. Then came the part I'll never forget. I didn't think it would matter that much to you, she said. Just like that. Like I was being unreasonable for caring. Like my place in their lives was optional. I didn't reply. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I simply ended the call. That was the moment I hit bottom. Not the earlier betrayal. Not the disinvitation, not the public exclusion. It was hearing my own mother, someone I had bent over backwards for, tell me that she didn't think I would care. Like I was furniture. Reliable. Stationary. Unfeeling. The worst part? A piece of me had believed it too. For years. That night, I turned off my phone. Shut the blinds. Sat in the dark and just existed. No music. No emails. No distractions. Just silence. And in that silence, something unexpected happened. I started thinking, not about the betrayal, but about everything I had done. I thought about the first client I ever signed, 3 years ago. The sleepless nights. The 12-hour workdays. The deals I negotiated, the risks I took. The reputation I built. I thought about the way people respected me at work. Trusted me. Called me for advice. I thought about the bakery owner, who once told me I saved their business by landing them a corporate account during a slow season. About the jazz band leader who texted me after a successful gig, saying, If you ever run for mayor, I'm voting for you. About my assistant, who once left a note on my desk that read, Thanks for never raising your voice when things go wrong. You have no idea how rare that is. I realized something. I had built an entire world outside of them. A world where I mattered. A world where I wasn't too sensitive or too serious, or just Jack. I wasn't the background character in that world. I was the protagonist. It didn't erase the hurt, but it was the first time I started to feel something other than hollow. The next day, the day of the party that never happened, I drove out to the beach. It was about an hour outside the city. I didn't tell anyone. I brought a book and a hoodie and just sat on a bench, watching the waves. The air was cold, and the wind kicked up sand into my shoes. But for once, I didn't mind. I was unreachable, untethered. Around 3 p.m., I got a notification on my phone. Missed call from Lacey. Then another. Then Drew. Then Mom. I turned the phone off again. Let them sit in the silence for a change. The next week, I buried myself in work. Not to avoid things, but to focus. I looked at my calendar and cleared out every favor I'd been doing for family. No more free consultations. No more discounts. No more special treatment. I wasn't rude. I was professional. Detached. I started saying things like, I'd recommend checking with another agency, or this is out of scope for what we offer. And then I did something I hadn't done in years. I booked a solo vacation. 10 days in Kyoto. No itinerary. Just me, my camera, and whatever came next. It was the first time I'd ever traveled without checking in with family. I didn't post about it. Didn't share updates. I just went. Walked the streets. Ate street food. Hiked to shrines. Took pictures I didn't plan to show anyone. Talked to strangers I'd never see again. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was trying to be someone for anyone else. On the flight back, I sat next to an older man, maybe late 60s, silver hair, kind eyes. He struck up a conversation about the in-flight meal, of all things, and we ended up talking the entire flight. At one point, he asked about my family. I told him a little, left out most of it, but he must have sensed something. He said, you know, sometimes the hardest thing isn't being alone. It's realizing you've been lonely for a long time, even surrounded by people. That line stuck with me, because he was right. I'd been lonely for a long time, but I wasn't alone anymore. When I got back, I did something else I never thought I'd do. I left the family group chat. No announcement. No drama. Just gone. Drew texted me once, yo, you good? But I never replied. Lacey sent a short, passive-aggressive message a week later. Hope your trip was fun. Just so you know, everyone was really disappointed the party didn't happen. Dad was crushed. Not that it matters. I didn't reply to that either. I wasn't being petty. I was drawing a line. And once I started doing that, the change was addictive. I started saying no to other people too. The friend who only called when he needed website help. The former client who wanted just a quick favor. The old college roommate who always forgot his wallet. I stopped being the guy who never complained, who always had time, who filled in the blanks. And slowly, I started filling in my own. I hired a second project manager for my firm. Finally got weekends off. Joined a photography club downtown. Went on a few awkward dates. One of them turned into something promising. Emma, a graphic designer with a dry sense of humor and a love for ugly vintage mugs. We started grabbing coffee every Sunday. It wasn't serious yet, but it felt possible, real. I also started therapy, something I'd always brushed off as unnecessary. Turns out, it wasn't. Turns out, there was a lot more to unpack than just the party. The therapist, Dr. Ronan, helped me trace patterns. Helped me understand how long I'd been playing the quietly useful son role. How I'd learned to measure love by usefulness. How I'd accepted scraps of affection and called it a feast. He said something one day that floored me. You're grieving, Jack. Not just a party. You're grieving the version of your family you thought you had. And he was right. I was grieving. But grief doesn't mean weakness. Sometimes it's the first step toward healing. Over the next 2 months, things got quiet. The kind of quiet I used to be afraid of. But this time, I leaned into it. I stopped checking their socials. Stopped hoping for a text. Stopped expecting an apology. Instead, I focused on living. And just when I thought they'd faded into the background for good, a letter arrived. Handwritten. From my father. No return address. No postage. Just dropped at my office, probably by hand. The envelope had one line written on it. From Dad. I held it for a long time. Turned it over in my hands. I hadn't heard from him since the call with Mom. Hadn't seen him. Had no idea where he stood in all of this. And now here was this letter. I stared at it for a long time. Then I opened it. And what I read changed everything. The letter was only 3 sentences long. No dramatic apology. No emotional outpouring. Just 3 precise lines, written in my father's stiff, all-caps handwriting, the kind you'd expect on blueprints or engineering diagrams. Not a personal note to your son. Jack, I don't know how we got here, but I know it's not where I want us to stay. When you're ready, I'd like to talk. Just you and me. Dad. I must have reread it 20 times. There was no blame in it, no defensiveness. No attempt to explain away what happened or ask for forgiveness. Just acknowledgement. And an invitation. But I didn't respond. Not yet. Because while that letter cracked something open in me, it didn't erase what had been done. And it didn't account for the years that led up to this. Not just the party, but the pattern. A pattern where I was always the fixer, the helper, the one who didn't need a thank you because I understood. A pattern that had finally shattered when they planned an entire celebration around my father's legacy and somehow decided I didn't belong in the room. I wasn't ready to forgive, but I was ready for something else. I was ready to take control, not out of spite, not out of revenge for revenge's sake, but because something had shifted. For the first time, I realized I had more leverage than I'd ever used, more power than they had ever acknowledged. Not just financial power, though that was part of it, but informational power, social capital, professional reach. I wasn't just the guy who booked the venue. I was the guy who could get the venue, even when it was sold out. I was the reason Mom could brag about a cake shaped like Dad's sailboat. I was the reason Lacey's wedding DJ still recommended her to clients. I was the one who'd taught Drew how to negotiate his first raise. They had leaned on me for years, casually, thoughtlessly, often, but completely. And now that I'd stepped back, I could see just how many of their plans, appearances, and reputations had been propped up by favors I never tracked. So I started tracking. I made a list, not out of pettiness, but clarity. I wrote down every unpaid favor, every last-minute save, every vendor I'd introduced, every time I'd opened a door that wouldn't have existed without me. The bakery Lacey used for her wedding? My connection. The photographer who gave her a 50% discount because I vouched for her? That too. Drew's internship, which turned into his full-time job. I'd made 2 calls and coached him through the interview. Even the church my parents used for Easter events? I'd redesigned their website. For free. And still, I was the one left off the list. It wasn't just that I had been forgotten. It was that I had enabled it. And now I wasn't going to anymore. The first thing I did was reach out to people. Quietly. Calmly. I wasn't burning bridges. I was taking down signs with my name on them. I called Marla, the bakery owner. Hey Marla, just a heads up. I'm stepping away from referring clients for a while. Just letting you know so you're not surprised if Lacey or someone else reaches out and drops my name. She paused. Oh, did something happen? Just clarifying a few boundaries. Nothing personal. She was quiet a moment, then said, understood. But between you and me, she wasn't half as polite as you were. Didn't even send a thank you email. I smiled faintly. Thanks for letting me know. I made 6 more calls like that, each one the same. Brief, polite, just enough to draw a line. And each one ended the same way, with someone admitting that, yeah, my family had come calling more than once, usually assuming my name was still their access key. But the real setup didn't start until I saw the fundraiser. It popped up on my feed one afternoon in early May. Lacey had posted it. So excited to announce that I'm hosting a gala fundraiser for local women entrepreneurs. Flexed Biceps sparkles. This cause is close to my heart, and I can't wait to share more soon. Save the date, June 10th. Hashtag support small business, hashtag women's voices. I stared at the post for a full minute. Then I laughed. Because the venue she tagged? That was my client. One I'd helped get off the ground during the pandemic. I knew the owner personally. In fact, she still owed me a favor for helping with their relaunch campaign. I didn't need to sabotage the event. I just needed to know the truth. I called the owner, Tessa. Hey Jack. Long time. You coming by soon? Actually, I had a quick question, I said. I saw Lacey Bennett's post. Something about a June fundraiser? Tessa hesitated. Yeah, I've been meaning to talk to you about that. She said she was referred by you. I closed my eyes for a second. Did she mention I'm not involved? She didn't mention much of anything. Tessa said carefully. Just dropped your name and said the space was already familiar. I exhaled slowly. Mind if I stop by next week? I'd like to talk through a few things. Of course. Always. When I got there, she greeted me with a hug and a slightly worried look. I didn't want to assume anything, she said as we sat down. But it did feel off. She's using my name without permission, I said. And I'd prefer not to be affiliated with anything she does moving forward. Tessa nodded. Say no more. And if she's planning to fundraise under the business sponsorship rules, we'll verify paperwork. I leaned in slightly. Actually, If she's raising money in a business name, she needs to show formal registration. Publicly. Otherwise, she's operating under false pretenses. Tessa blinked. You think she doesn't have it? I know she doesn't, I said. She's been using a lifestyle blog and some branded merch to make it look official. But there's no LLC, no filing, no tax ID, just vibes and hashtags. Tessa nodded slowly. You want me to pull the reservation? Not yet, I said. Let her keep building, announcing, promoting. She smiled knowingly. Got it. The thing was, I didn't need her fundraiser to fail. I just needed her to understand what it felt like to be removed from something you built. But I didn't stop there. 2 days later, Drew called me out of nowhere. Hey bro, weird favor. Are you still in touch with that guy at VenturePoint? The VC group? Possibly, I said. Why? He hesitated. My startup's doing a second round of funding. We're trying to get in front of bigger names. I mentioned you, and someone said you've worked with VP before. I had. I also knew the guy who handled early stage pitches, because I'd helped him design his firm's rebranding campaign last year. Sure, I said. Send me your deck. He emailed it 10 minutes later. I didn't forward it. Instead, I opened it. Read it. Spotted 2 things I recognized. A section of the deck had been pulled almost word for word from a template I'd sent him a year ago, when he asked for just a bit of help putting together a pitch outline. Another section featured analytics from a campaign I'd run. He hadn't even reworded the captions, just lifted the screenshots. I didn't confront him. I simply reached out to the contact at VenturePoint. Hey, just a heads up, Drew Bennett might reach out. If he does, could you loop me in? I helped develop some of the assets he's using and want to make sure the credit is clear. 2 hours later, I got a reply. Thanks for flagging. That's a problem. We don't take kindly to attribution issues. I didn't hear from Drew again. At least not until the email came. Subject, can we talk? From Drew Bennett. To Jack Bennett. Hey man, not sure what's going on, but I just got a rejection from VenturePoint and the guy said something about intellectual property red flags. If I did something wrong, just tell me. I'm trying to make this work. Please don't blacklist me, okay? I didn't reply. Not out of cruelty. Out of strategy. Let the silence teach them what I never could with words. Because silence was the only thing they listened to when I spoke. But I wasn't done yet. There was one more piece to move. And it came from the letter my dad sent. The only gesture that almost made me pause. The invitation. The olive branch. I hadn't answered yet. But now I was ready. Not to reconnect. Not to forgive. But to reveal what I had built in their absence. To show them what they had chosen to cut out. To make them see. Because the next thing I was about to do would make every missed invitation look like a blessing in disguise. And it all started with one small announcement. Something I hadn't told anyone yet. My company had just closed its biggest deal to date. A 7-figure partnership with a global brand. The kind of deal that made headlines. And the press release? It would go live in exactly 4 days. But I had one more thing to add to it. Something personal. Something impossible to ignore. The press release hit the wire at 10 a.m. on a Monday morning. The headline was clean, powerful, and impossible to ignore. Bennett & Company secures $4.3 million global partnership with Kellen Bradley. Underneath it, a quote from me, founder and CEO of Bennett & Company, about integrity, innovation, and how our next chapter would focus on brand strategy for rising entrepreneurs and overlooked creators. A subtle nod for anyone paying attention. And at the bottom of the article, nestled beneath a bulleted list of upcoming initiatives, was the real kicker. Founder Jack Bennett to launch the Bennett Catalyst Fund, an annual grant for young entrepreneurs with integrity, vision, and grit. Applications open July 1st. The fund had been in the works for months. I'd been putting aside a portion of our profits to do something that mattered. Something that wasn't about favors or family ties, just merit. No nepotism. No backdoors. The press release went live. And within 2 hours, it started making rounds. Industry newsletters, LinkedIn reposts, startup Twitter. My inbox filled with messages of congratulations. Clients I hadn't spoken to in a year reached out. Even an old mentor forwarded the article with a note. You did it, kid. Proud of you. Then came the text from my family. Lacey was first. Lacey, wait what? You started a fund? Why didn't you tell anyone? I thought we were going to co-host something this summer. A minute later, another one. Lacey, also, are you seriously not making an exception for family? Drew was going to apply. I didn't reply. Then came Drew. Drew, congrats I guess. Didn't know you were out here making headlines and launching funds lol. Maybe we could talk sometime. I've got some stuff I'm working on. Could use your eyes on it. Still no reply. I let the silence speak. The real reaction came from my mother. She didn't text. She called and left a voicemail I'll never delete. Her voice was tight, controlled, but with a hint of panic underneath. Jack, I just saw the article. This is quite a surprise. Everyone's talking about it. Your aunt forwarded it to the group thread. We didn't know anything about this. Why wouldn't you tell us? It would have meant so much to your father. To all of us. Please call me back when you get this. She never said congratulations. Just why didn't you tell us? That voicemail told me everything I needed to know. They weren't proud. They were blindsided. Because for once, they weren't part of the story. They couldn't claim it. They couldn't twist it. They couldn't use it. And it killed them. But I wasn't finished. 3 days after the press release, I sent one last email. It was short, simple, polite. To Tessa, venue owner. Subject, regarding Lacey Bennett's gala. Hi Tessa. Following up on our conversation, I've attached documentation confirming that Ms. Bennett is not formally registered to collect funds on behalf of a nonprofit, business entity, or verified 501c organization. While I won't instruct you how to proceed, I did want to clarify that I am not, in any capacity, affiliated with or endorsing this event, and I have not authorized the use of my name or connections for promotional purposes. Warm regards, Jack. Less than 12 hours later, the event was canceled. Tessa sent me a quick reply. Handled. Thanks for the heads up. We'll be vetting future events more thoroughly. Lacey posted a vague Instagram story the next day. Due to unforeseen complications, we've made the difficult decision to postpone the gala. Thank you to everyone who supported us. No further explanation. But her story views plummeted that week. I know because a mutual friend sent me screenshots. Sponsors quietly pulled out. Collaborators backed away. Then came the part that even I didn't expect. VenturePoint, the firm Drew had tried to pitch, launched a new initiative. A podcast featuring young founders. In their first episode, the host talked about the dangers of borrowed success and the importance of original vision. He didn't name names. But he didn't have to. People talk in these circles. The ripples reached my family faster than I thought. And then, after weeks of silence, my father finally showed up. In person. At my office. He didn't announce it. Just walked in one afternoon while I was finishing a meeting. My assistant looked uncomfortable as she motioned toward the lobby. He says he's your dad. I stood up slowly, walked out to the reception area, and there he was. Wearing the same brown jacket he'd worn for years. Looking tired. Older than I remembered. He held his hat in his hands like he didn't know what to do with them. Jack. I crossed my arms. What do you want? I just wanted to see you, he said. And say congratulations. I read the article. You've built something incredible. Thanks. He shifted his weight. Your mom's been a mess. I said nothing. He looked around. This place is, wow. I didn't know. I guess I should have. But I didn't. I raised an eyebrow. Didn't know what. That you weren't just the guy who helped. That you weren't just. He stopped himself. You built all of this. And we treated you like a spare part. Still, I said nothing. He looked down. The party. I should have said something. I should have stood up. You didn't, I said quietly. I know, he replied. And I think I knew, even then, that we were crossing a line. But it's hard to stop momentum once it's moving. Your mom had her plans. Lacey was in her element. And I told myself, Jack won't mind. Jack never minds. I met his eyes. I minded. He nodded slowly. I see that now. The silence stretched between us again, like it always did. Only this time, I didn't feel the need to fill it. He cleared his throat. I guess I just wanted to say, I'm sorry for not seeing you sooner. It wasn't much, but it was honest. I nodded once. Thanks. He gave me a weak smile. If you ever want to come by for dinner, I'll make sure there's a seat. I'll think about it. He turned to leave. Stopped at the door. You know, they still don't get it. Your mother, Lacey, even Drew. They think you're just mad. But I know better. Do you? You're not angry, he said. You're done. And he walked out. That night, I sat on my balcony, glass of whiskey in hand, and let the weight of it all settle in my chest. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt free. I'd spent years chasing validation from people who saw me as convenient. Now, finally, they saw me for what I was. Not their fixer. Not their safety net. Not their shadow. But the man who built everything they took for granted. And when I closed my eyes, the silence didn't feel empty anymore. It felt earned. Because I hadn't just walked away. I'd walked forward. And they were the ones left behind.